Today, we're making a puzzle game, something I've definitely never tried before. And unlike my previous mistakes, this one is guaranteed to succeed. After all, puzzle games are Valve's favorite genre. You know Valve, the company that owns Steam, home to 76,000 games and 449 different genres. Puzzle games are ranked only below average and partially overshadowed by games with too much personality and too little personality. That's right, hitting a small ball with a metal stick is not only more entertaining, but it is also more profitable. Who would have thought? Weirdly shaped cardboard pieces are simply not good enough these days. But people love making puzzle games, and so I wanted to try making one myself. After all, there are only 18,000 of them. This makes 1 in 4 games on Steam a puzzle game. What do Batman, Tomb Raider, and Resident Evil have in common? That's right, puzzles. The spectrum starts from a billionaire beating up the homeless for fun and ends at around zombie apocalypse. Now that we know what we're getting ourselves into, fire up your favorite game engine, not you, and let's make a puzzle game. We start with a blank canvas, of course, and only after half a second, life begins to form. Initially, I attempted an isometric look. So many good puzzle games have used this before, Monument Valley being one of the more popular examples. But I'm too lazy to draw 2D isometric, and in fact, I can't draw at all. So instead, we'll use 3D and an orthogonal camera, which gives us a larger pool of game assets to steal from. Later on, life took the shape of a perfectly symmetric grid, or in simpler terms, I added a grid map, which is a nicer and more consistent way of placing objects in the world, a bit like a chessboard. After making sure that the grid was really aligned with the world, I moved on to style. And for some reason, my mind immediately jumped to a dark fog. It almost looks like wizard chess, but in Silent Hill. Now, some of you will recognize this as volumetric fog. The rest might see this as the CSGO smoke grenade. And to be perfectly honest, I played around with volumetric fog more than I would like to admit. Partially because I find the technology so cool, and because CSGO is using it. I had to see what all the fuss was about, okay? I even added this post-processing effect just to make the fog look a bit more intimidating. Eventually, I realized the fog wasn't going to cut it, so I put it in my pocket and saved it for later. Instead, I took inspiration from older games and tried going for a more pixel-esque style. Of course, I put the fog in there too, just for good measure, but you're definitely in Silent Hill playing wizard chess now. I mean, you can't even see the board anymore. But after a bit of tweaking, I fixed that and you can see the grid again. You can even make some funny shapes if you wanted to. Up to now, you've probably been looking at this wondering, how the hell is this a puzzle game? Well,
oh my god, bro. Oh, hell no, man. What the
yes,
fuck,
the bar is that low. The reality, of course, is that I don't know either. I'm just throwing ideas until one of them sticks. At first, this game was supposed to be a city builder and puzzle hybrid genre. A bit like Terra Nil, if you've ever played it. However, at one point I was like, hey, wouldn't it be cool if you could physically move around on the grid? Or enter into buildings. Oh, I know. What if there was a day and night cycle and you had a visibility radius or a cone? It's only after the 10th idea that I realized that making games is almost like playing games, except the lore is infinite. Eventually, I did discover this not so horrible idea of keeping the player always in the center and only showing a 5x5 grid. This should keep the puzzle complexity limited, not for the player, but for me and my stupid ass. This idea was tempting, almost too good to be true, so I decided to stress test. What if we added larger objects outside the grid space, in the open world? Can the idea survive that? And like any normal guy, I added a massive shaft in the middle of the space and started experimenting. Not long after, I managed to cut the shaft in half. We're in business. I began building everything around this idea. I added more tiles, sand, acid, whatever the hell this is, and more importantly, an entrance. An entrance to where, you might ask? Well, where else than inside the massive shaft? But there was this one tile that really bugged me, the item tile. You see, I've been staring at this game for so long, trying to make something out of it, that eventually it dawned on me that the game I have in front of me is actually Diablo, but worse. At some point, I wanted to have an inventory system, but concluded something much better than picking things up. What if you picked up the grid itself? My god, but we could do better. What if we could pick up the entrance of a building. And this is about the time when the holidays rolled in. I shapeshifted into a lazy bum and played Baldur's Gate for 80 hours straight. Come back in the next month when the studio reopens.